You just realized that you needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job posts seen on other job sites. Indeed-sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. With sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach the people that you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Plus, with Indeed-sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Well, in the minute I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/BWN. Just go to Indeed.com/BWN right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/BWN. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
And away we go. Episode 1091 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. It is day one of the Commanders' 2025 mandatory minicamp. Not voluntary, not voluntold, mandatory. As in, if you do not attend, you are in trouble. Big trouble. Actually, maybe not. We are not expecting receiver Terry McLaurin to attend, as he and the team are in the midst of contract extension talks. But technically speaking, a player who does not attend his team's mandatory minicamp is subject to being fined by the team, though the team does not have to issue the fine. Something tells me that the Commanders will not be fining Terry McLaurin. The Commanders' mandatory minicamp is happening on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then that is it for the team's 2025 offseason program. It is done. And then the team has about a month and a half break until the start of training camp. Hello and welcome to this Tuesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. How likely is it that the Commanders' offense in the 2025 season will be better than the offense was in the 2024 season? Next segment, I'm going to discuss that and more off comments from Commanders offensive assistants Brian Johnson, Tavita Pritchard, and David Blough this past Thursday. They had a lot to say about quarterback Jayden Daniels and the value of the team's offensive continuity in terms of the QB1 and the coaching staff. Last season's offense was elite. Yes, the possibility for regression is real, but could it be, might it be, that this coming season's offense is even better than last season's offense was? And also on the show, I'll chat with Peter Hassett, co-founder of the great capital site Russian Machine Never Breaks, RMNB. We, with Peter, will cover a lot of ground with the Caps, including the Caps news of the last few days. Winger TJ Oshie on Monday evening, as expected, announcing his retirement in the NHL this past Saturday morning, naming Caps head coach Spencer Carbery as the winner of the Jack Adams Award for the league's 2024-2025 regular season. We're going to do a lot on Oshie, including his legacy and whether his number 77 should be retired by the Caps. We'll also examine how real the Caps' major increase in goal scoring this past regular season was, what to make of the recent retirement talk regarding winger Alex Ovechkin, and what to expect from the Caps this offseason. Peter Hassett, co-founder of Russian Machine Never Breaks, later in the show with terrific perspective on the Caps. And as for that TJ Oshie retirement announcement on Monday evening, the announcement happened at Washington Harbor in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Here was a key part of that announcement.
Man, what an amazing ride we had. From President's Trophies, heartbreak losses, and a Stanley Cup, we've been through it all. I've been lucky in my life to be a part of amazing locker rooms, but the bond we have here in D.C. is special. It was an absolute privilege to go to war with you on the ice. When you read it to yourself silently, you don't get this emotional. All right. 30 years from now, looking back on my career and telling my grandkids about what it was like playing in the NHL, I'll tell them that my favorite memories was my time with you. Jeez. I know, I'm not... All right, I'm trying here. In the locker room, dinners on the road, cards on the plane. Jeez. And Mario Kart in the playoffs. Those are the times I cherish most. I got the tattoo right here to prove it.
Not now. No. It's too early.
This one's probably going to be tougher, so I'll get through it here. Special shout out to Becky, O, John, and Tom. Joby, you might have to read the rest for this for me here. We've raised our kids together. We failed together, cried together, laughed together, grieved together, and became champions together. You four have a special place in my heart, a bond reserved only for family. I consider you my brothers. Thank you for accepting me from day one and staying by my side through it all.
Good stuff from TJ Oshie, of course, paying homage to four teammates in particular, and wingers Alex Ovechkin and Tom Wilson, center Nicholas Backstrom, and defenseman John Carlson. Oshie's announcement was long. He got emotional, but he was very detailed in going through his career point by point. But the papers on which Oshie had the announcement written out went flying all over the place. As he said, he should have stapled the darn papers together. But how we should remember TJ Oshie, that and much more with Peter Hassett later in the show. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from the great Chris Nace, lead attorney for the Nace Law Group, accident and injury lawyers. Chris writes regarding something that I introduced on my other podcast, the Nats Chat podcast, and that is, what should we call the days on which national starting pitcher Mackenzie Gore is pitching? Gore is having a special season, and we in the past have had nicknames for game days for great Nats starting pitchers, like Strasmus for Steven Strasburg and Schurzday for Max Scherzer. So what should we call Mackenzie Gore game days, of which, by the way, this day of Tuesday, June 10th, is one. The Nats are at the National League leading New York Mets Tuesday night at 7:10 in game one of a three-game series. Gore is set to be the Nats starting pitcher. So writes Chris, what about McKay Day? Thank you for that, Chris. So McKay Day, as in M-A-K Day, as Gore is having an elite strikeout season. McKay Day, that can work. That's pretty good. My favorite suggestion so far has been McKen's Day, which of course works especially well if Gore is pitching on, yes, a Wednesday, just like Schurzday worked especially well if Max Scherzer was pitching on a Thursday. Whatever the nickname for Mackenzie Gore game days, the guy is killing it this season. Gore in MLB's 2025 regular season as of games through Sunday was number 7 in the majors in wins above replacement per Baseball Reference for pitchers, 2.6, was number 2 in the majors in strikeouts, 108, was number 1 among all qualified pitchers in the majors in strikeouts per 9 innings, 12.903, was number 6 among all qualified pitchers in the majors in fielding independent pitching, 2.58. Gore and Nats outfielder James Wood absolutely should be on this season's National League All-Star team. Email from Mike Stritt in Texas on the order in which we talk Nats and Orioles on this podcast. Writes Mike, I grew up in Northern Virginia, and like you, I grew up rooting for the Orioles since the Nationals were not around. I still only follow the O's because of my fond memories from Camden Yards and the other Great 8. When starting your baseball segments, would you consider changing who you cover first? Currently, you always cover the Nats first since they are technically the home team. However, I suggest that you start with the team that has the best record. Tie goes to the Nats. Last year, the Nats were tanking and the O's were rolling, but I still had to listen to the Nats segment before I could hear about the team that was heading to the playoffs. I don't like skipping because it denies you that sweet, sweet listen time that I'm sure goes toward your paycheck. Anyway, just an idea. I'm listening either way. Well, thank you for the email, Mike. First of all, I appreciate Mike taking my paycheck into consideration. Second of all, I love what Mike wrote when he wrote the other Great 8. as in legendary former Orioles shortstop / third baseman Cal Ripken Jr., as opposed to legendary current Capitals winger Alex Ovechkin. That's great. The other great 8. Who is the greatest number 8 in the history of the Mid-Atlantic region, Cal or Ovi? There's a question. I'd say Ovi, but it is close. Anyway, I build this podcast as being about Washington, D.C. area sports, and I am intentional in saying Washington, D.C. area sports as opposed to Washington, D.C. sports, because we talk about teams outside of the immediate D.C. area in addition to teams in the immediate D.C. area. But teams outside of the immediate D.C. area like the Orioles and Virginia Tech football and basketball and Virginia football and basketball get talked about on this podcast. But the foundation of the podcast in terms of topics is DC sports, is the big 4 of DC pro sports, the Commanders, Nationals, Capitals, and Wizards. It would be odd if I build this as a podcast about DC area sports, but consistently gave the MLB team of Baltimore preference over the MLB team of DC. And I say that as someone who grew up as an Orioles fan and still is an Orioles fan, but also as someone who likes and roots for the Nats and would be a Nats fan if he was born, say, 10 years later. DC had no MLB team for the 1972 through 2004 seasons. That's a long time. A lot of people in the D.C. area in their 30s, 40s, and 50s are Orioles fans as opposed to Nats fans because those people, like me, grew up with the O's as the only MLB team in the region. And the notion of D.C. getting an MLB team for a third time felt like a pipe dream. But the Nats are the MLB team of the D.C. area, and so I give the Nats preference over the O's, though there are exceptions. I, as the 2023 season went on, talked O's before I talk Nats. When will it be the case again that both teams are in the playoffs? You know, we had that in 2012, 2014, and 2016. Have not had that since. When will we have that again? Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast. If you're not already doing that, subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. Hey, you could put this podcast to work for you by advertising on the podcast. Grow your business or practice. Podcast advertising works and is very affordable. You get a true bang for your buck. In fact, we right now are offering special discounted deals as we approach 2025 Commanders Training Camp. Would love to have you on board. Email us. See what we could do for you. The email address is the Al Galdi Podcast at yahoo.com. So as the Commanders on Tuesday are beginning their 2025 mandatory minicamp, I wanted to address maybe the most significant question for the team in the 2025 offseason. Will quarterback Jayden Daniels and the offense be even better in the 2025 season than they were in the 2024 season? The Commanders this past Thursday did something that the team does each year now, and that is what essentially is Assistant Coach Day. Members of the media can interview the team's assistant coaches who usually are not made available to the media. A bunch of these interviews have been posted online in recent days. I've been watching and processing the interviews so that you don't have to. Remember, a mantra of this podcast, we follow Washington, D.C. area sports so that you don't have to. But hearing what the offensive assistants had to say got me to thinking about the team's 2025 offense versus the 2024 offense. The Commanders last season, of course, were outstanding offensively. The Commanders for the 2024 regular season were number 6 in the NFL in total offense per Aaron Schatz's DVOA metric, number 4 in the NFL in expected points added per play, EPA per play per RBSDM.com, number 10 in the NFL in yards per play, number 6 in the NFL in points per play, number 4 in the NFL in third down efficiency, 45.6%, number 1 in the NFL in fourth down efficiency, 87%, 20 for 23. Now, there are reasons to believe that offensive regression is coming. Third and fourth down efficiencies tend to fluctuate year to year. Also, the Commanders last season were very healthy, so if they this coming season have bad injury luck, that could derail the offense. But what's also possible is that the Commanders' offense this coming season will be even better than the team's offense was last season. There are examples in Washington history of the team following a breakout offensive season with an even better offensive season. The most recent example was the Redskins' 2016 offense being better than their 2015 offense, which was a breakout offense. But there are other examples. The Redskins' 1983 offense was better than the 1982 offense, which was a breakout offense in what was a Super Bowl championship season. There are three reasons to believe that the Commanders' offense this coming season will be even better than the team's offense was last season. A, the quarterback, the QB1, Jayden Daniels. He this coming season is a prime candidate to vault into being an elite NFL quarterback off his all-time great rookie season. B, the team's offseason acquisitions of left tackle Laramie Tunsil and offensive lineman Josh Connerly Jr. to bolster the offensive line, and receiver Deebo Samuel Sr. to bolster the receiving core. And C, the offensive coaching staff continuity. Essentially, the entirety of the team's offensive coaching staff is back, including the top 5 assistants pertaining to Jayden Daniels, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury, assistant head coach / offensive pass game coordinator Brian Johnson, run game coordinator / running backs coach Anthony Lynn, quarterbacks coach Tavita Pritchard, and assistant quarterbacks coach David Blough. To that point, here was Tavita Pritchard in a conversation with 7 News DC sports anchor and reporter Natalie Spalla this past Thursday.
To have that continuity this year, do you feel like you maybe have a little bit of a step up just based on that?
Yeah, I think if there is a place that we have some where that continuity, I think there's a building element to it, is like what we've built in our relationships and our connections, and so you can start from, maybe a different place from that standpoint. When it comes to coaching and football, like, there's so much trust involved. Yeah. And I think when you can already have a base built, so like the quarterback room, for instance, obviously Jayden in there and Marcus in there and Sam and, David Blough and Brian Johnson and Cliff, like, there's already so much that we've been through. So I think some of those conversations can now maybe start in a different place. Yeah, that makes sense. So I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, you'd like to think that it does. Here was Brian Johnson in a conversation with Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4 this past Thursday, starting with Johnson on Jayden Daniels.
It's really exciting. He's done a great job so far this offseason, obviously. Continuing to grow and develop and competing at a high level each and every day. So he's obviously a pleasure to be around and a great young man, and I'm excited to watch him to continue to grow and develop.
When you're running the passing game, coordinating the passing game, and last year you had to teach everything, and I'm sure there's still teaching involved, but now is it more perfecting, like changing? What happens in year 2 with a quarterback that had a rookie season like that?
Yeah, I think you just continue to layer the reps, and he's got thousands of reps now accrued in the system and understanding what we're trying to do. So, him being able to have that memory bank of, I've had this rep against this look. I think it just continues to speed up his processing and continue to, develop in the passing game and really overall in his entire game. So he's done a great job of, the meeting room and understanding what we're trying to accomplish and going out there and executing it on the field.
So NFL history is mixed when it comes to how quarterbacks who had great rookie seasons did in sophomore seasons. Probably the ultimate example of a quarterback following a great rookie season with an even better second NFL season is by the Miami Dolphins' Dan Marino. He had a very good 1983 rookie season, but his 1984 season was even better. Marino, in the 1984 regular season over 16 games, threw for 5,084 yards and 48 touchdowns versus 17 interceptions, and he led the Dolphins to the AFC Championship for the 1984 season. 5,084 passing yards and 48 touchdown passes for Marino in the 84 regular season. Those stats would be jaw-dropping now. Imagine what those stats were like in 1984 in a much less pass-happy NFL. Is 2025 Jayden Daniels going to be like 1984 Dan Marino? That would be nice. How about some scheduled fun? Classic NFL films on Dan Marino's classic 1984 season. Here you go.
A powerful arm is always in fashion. And in 1984, a new golden boy basked in the spotlight. Dan Marino, in only his second NFL season. achieved a level of excellence previously thought to be unattainable. The Miami quarterback passed for over 5,000 yards. He threw 48 touchdown passes, an average of 3 per game, and 12 more than the old record. Pro football had never seen the likes of this kid's majestic arm.
I love that stuff. The narration, the music, just outstanding. I'm a total mark for NFL Films pieces like the one I just played for you. Here was David Blough in a conversation with J.P. Finley this past Thursday.
What was it like for you this offseason, knowing you're staying here, knowing that Cliff's staying here, and you guys get to keep building that room?
Sure. I think it's an incredible opportunity just to build on the first season of Cliff's offense here and our offense in year one in Washington. And the continuity, man, at the quarterback position and on an offense is as important to success as anything, in my opinion. So to have the whole staff together and everybody, new additions, you know, it's exciting to be able to go into 2025 kind of revamped, ready to go.
Yeah, now, when it comes to Cliff Kingsbury, one of the cool things with him is the input that he seeks from his offensive assistants. We last Thursday had this exchange between Natalie Spalla and Tavita Pritchard.
Specifically with you and Cliff, I mean, you admitted last year when we spoke to you, guys have come from two different offensive backgrounds, two different philosophies, but it's been the perfect marriage. How was it so effortless? Or maybe it wasn't effortless to you, but on the field it certainly looked like that.
Well, I can't say enough about Cliff and just like the football mind he is, but just the person he is. You know, like he is an incredibly conscientious leader. The way that he approaches not only our staff but the players and our unit as an offense, you know, I think it just goes a long way. Like he's collaborative. He's really interested in the ideas and the thoughts that we have when it comes to a play or a technique. And so I think in my working relationship with him, I think so much has been about, you know, him giving me showing me grace, but also just showing me trust, you know, to be able to say, hey, I'm curious, you know, what you think about this, again, because we do come from some different worlds, but I think there's more similarities than I think either of us thought might be the case coming into this relationship.
And we heard Tavita Pritchard mention Cliff Kingsbury being collaborative. Regarding that, take you back to this past October 17th. Cliff Kingsbury, during a pre-practice press conference, credited David Blough for the flea flicker screen to running back Austin Eckler in the Commanders' 30-23 loss at the Baltimore Ravens on October 13th. Do you happen to remember that play? On a 1st and 10 for the Commanders at the Ravens 43 with 6:15 left in the second quarter, Jayden Daniels had a 25-yard pistol completion to Austin Eckler on a flea flicker that was nearly botched. The toss back to Daniels from running back Jeremy McNichols was way off, but Daniels corralled the football and the play ended up working out. We 4 days later had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig of The Athletic and Cliff Kingsbury.
Of the plays you called last week, the flea flicker to the running back screen is one that got a lot of attention, and people are like, well, where did that come from? So,
yeah, I got to cite my sources always. It's a Jeff Brom play. He did it at Purdue, and obviously we have David Blough who played for Jeff Brom. So David Blough had brought that one up, and they threw it to a tight end. We ended up sneaking Austin back there, and it ended up working out. The guys executed it perfectly because they brought a pressure, which even made it better. But yeah, that's shout out Jeff Brom for that one.
So, Cliff Kingsbury giving props to David Blough and also former Purdue head coach Jeff Brom, who now is Louisville's head coach. David Blough was a quarterback for Purdue for the 2014 through 2018 seasons, then spent time with various NFL teams. Jeff Brom, by the way, he during his NFL career as a quarterback was with the Skins in the 1995 season. With all of this as a backdrop, we this past Thursday had this exchange between J.P. Finley and David Blough.
One thing that I thought was cool is Cliff always kind of talked about how everybody has input into the plays. Like, we want designs from everybody. Do you want to design more plays, like expand your role in that part?
Well, I think Cliff on day one to the offensive coaching staff said, a good idea knows no rank. I know he said it publicly, and he truly believes that, to have the humility and to allow creativity to come from everywhere. That's what I love expressing myself that way. All of our coaches have a gift for different areas, and so, creating plays, trick play, whatever it is, something that can help us have an edge. I think, that's kind of the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, trying to design stuff that might get somebody.
Yeah, so hearing all of this from these Commanders' offensive assistants this past Thursday made me think about what could be with the team's offense this coming season. And of course, this is the time during which hope springs eternal for all NFL teams. I get that. But what if the 2025 Commanders' offense is even better than the 2024 Commanders offense? Here were ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter and ESPN NFL analyst and former Skins executive Louis Riddick on ESPN's NFL Live this past Wednesday afternoon, talking Jayden Daniels and the Commanders offense.
This is the advantage that these teams with great young rookie quarterbacks have. They're on rookie contracts. So you can go out and spend money that other teams can't. The Commanders can go out and trade for Deebo Samuel and afford his $20 million price tag without any issues. They can go out and trade for Laramie Tunsil at left tackle without any issues about affording a new deal, talking to him about reworking his contract. The Commanders know that there's a window. We saw them at the trade deadline last year when Jayden Daniels played as well as he did. Go out and trade for Marshawn Lattimore because he has sped up the timeline and the expectations for this franchise, so they have been able to be aggressive and go out and surround him with as much talent as they can, no matter the price.
Yeah, and really, what you're talking about is they're trying to make sure that he doesn't have any kind of regression, that doesn't take any kind of step back, and that's what everyone wants to talk about, right? When you have a rookie who comes in the league and takes it by storm the way he did, people are going, well, they have film on him now, so he's going to automatically regress. And I just don't see it that way. And I think there's three keys to that. One, obviously, you got to do everything you can to keep the roster healthy around him and not have things to start breaking down and people not available for him. You do that, you're well on your way. Impactful additions. I mean, you talked about it, Adam. Having a guy like Deebo Samuel, Laramie Tunsil in the fold now, those are huge, huge additions. The drafting of Josh Connerly from Oregon. This offensive line should be real solid. They should be much more physical up front. The running game, and not just Jayden Daniels as far as the running game is concerned, should be much more impactful this year and take some pressure off of him. And then, the continuity of the coaching staff, I mean, that's just huge as well. Cliff Kingsbury coming back. Now, it isn't about, Cliff going on and getting the head coaching job. Jayden has to learn a whole new language, kind of like what Caleb Williams has to do. So a lot of things are stacking up and adding up to Jayden being able to hopefully take it to a whole nother level. Because I'll tell you what, he is the last person I'm worried about in this whole thing. He'll do his part. You just want to make sure everyone around him does their part, and then it's off to the races.
Yes, it is. Good points there, valid points there from Adam Schefter and Louis Riddick. Of course, a big part of everything that we've talked about this segment is the team's head coach, Dan Quinn, the coaching staff that he has built, the resulting offensive ecosystem for Jayden Daniels, these things emblematic of the team's improved culture. We last Thursday had this exchange between J.P. Finley and David Blough.
You've been a lot of places in the league, right? Like you have experienced lots of different locker rooms, lots of different coaches. What does it say about Dan and Cliff for you on the offensive side of the ball that I've covered a lot of coaches, and I can tell the difference when you get lip service and just saying the right thing versus actually doing it. What's it like to be in a room, a staff where that seems to be the real deal?
How long you got?
We're here.
Coach Quinn is the most intentional leader that I've ever been around. He's got an incredible gift for people and connecting groups, and Cliff is an extension of that and pours it into us. They show it first, and then they ask us to reciprocate that with the guys. And at the core of this, the center of this, it's the players that Adam and Lance and DQ have brought here that have connected with one another, and it oozes from there. It's a player's game. It always will be. but DQ has allowed it to flourish, the connection.
Very high praise from David Blough for Dan Quinn, and this theme of Commanders' offensive assistants, love and life under Dan Quinn. That was a popular theme this past Thursday. Consider this exchange between J.P. Finley and Brian Johnson.
On a personal level, what's it like for you, not only sticking around, staying in the same city, young family, like letting everybody grow into where they live, but also like to keep pretty much the whole staff? Like you guys, not a lot of turnover.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a testament to, the culture that Q has built here. And, we have a great staff with great coaches and great people. And that is so important, and it's something that I really, really value. And I think the rest of the coaches as well. So, we have a great group of guys that we're excited to continue to build with and continue to grow with, and, help put our players in the best position possible.
It has been way too long since Washington had back-to-back quality offensive seasons. 2015 and 2016, the last time that happened. And if you're talking about 3 consecutive quality offensive seasons, 1989, 1990, 1991, for the last time that happened, a long time ago. How will the 2025 Commanders offense compare with the 2024 Commanders offense? Might it be the case that the 2025 offense is better than the 2024 offense was? Well, the work of the Commanders' offensive coaching staff last season, extremely good, just like the work of Catering by Uptown. If you're planning a party, a wedding, a corporate gathering, and aren't sure where to start or what to do, no worries. Just visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Catering by Uptown provides both great service and a great price. Catering by Uptown is a family business, and it specializes in handling everything so that you don't have to. Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Catering by Uptown is committed to meeting your needs and exceeding your expectations. Great service, amazing cuisine, and reliability are the foundation of what makes Catering by Uptown one of the most referred caterers throughout Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Northern Virginia. And know this, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Catering by Uptown offers the ability to coordinate services at over 100 of the best reception halls, vineyards, farms, historic homes, event venues, banquet facilities, and wedding venues in the area. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. So the expected became official on Monday evening. Capitals winger TJ Oshie announced his retirement. He did so in an event at Washington Harbor in Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Monday was June 9th. 2025, 70 years to the day of Caps players swimming in the Washington Harbor fountains 2 days after winning the Stanley Cup on June 7th, 2018. Oshie, due to a chronic back problem, was on the long-term injured reserve list for the entirety of the Caps 2024-2025 season, which was the final season of an 8-year, $46 million contract to which Oshie was re-signed in June 2017. The Caps acquired Oshie via trade with the St. Louis Blues on July 2nd, 2015. He over 567 regular season games for the Caps, had 192 goals and 193 assists. He over 76 postseason games for the Caps, had 29 goals and 31 assists. Oshie was a really good player for the Caps. I am very pleased to welcome back to the Al Galdi podcast right now Peter Hassett, co-founder of the great Caps site Russian Machine Never Breaks, RMNB. You can follow Peter on X at Peter Hassett. Peter is terrific at talking Caps, understands hockey analytics very well. Hey, Peter, how are you?
Al, it's a privilege to be here again. I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
Doing well. Good to talk to you. How will you as a Caps analyst and Caps fan remember TJ Oshie?
I think every time somebody characterizes TJ Oshie as the heart and soul of the Capitals, they really nailed it. He's also a player who's defied expectations over years and years. I think early on, especially with those Olympics, or however many years ago that was, he was thought of as sort of a one-trick pony, stick-handling whiz who was able to do amazing things in the shootout. And over the years, he really persevered and added a physical dimension to his game that wasn't there before, and added underlying play driving skills that weren't there before. And although injuries stacked up, he certainly sacrificed his body. He was a major part of some of the team's most successful lines over many years, instrumental in the Cup win, and beloved on and off the ice. He's going to be a legend in Washington forever.
When it comes to the top Caps players of the Rock the Red era, of course, winger Alex Ovechkin is number one. Of course, center Nicholas Backstrom is number two. But who is number three? TJ Oshie, defenseman John Carlson, goaltender Braden Holtby. What do you think?
I guess it depends on when you define the era. For me, Braden Holtby will always be number three in my heart. But right after him, sorry to go with a dark horse here, Alexander Semin, one of the most mercurial players in Washington Capitals and maybe NHL history. He was, to me, this sort of spirit of the Capitals, the mischievous, not always very consistent Washington Capitals of that era. But right behind him, your Mike Greens, John Carlsons, TJ Oshie's for sure. And I think a lot of people's most fond memories of the last couple decades are going to be ones with TJ Oshie in it.
More mercurial, winger Alexander Semin or center Evgeny Kuznetsov? Who gets the championship belt for most mercurial Caps player of all time?
Kuznetsov, without a doubt. Kuznetsov was one of the most entertaining players ever to do it. One of the greatest quotes. Semin's thing is he wouldn't even give you a quote. Kuznetsov, one of the best interviews in hockey. I love that man.
The Caps have retired 4 jersey numbers. Defenseman Rod Langway's number 5, defenseman Von Lebray's number 7, winger Mike Gartner's number 11, and center Dale Hunter's number 32. Should TJ Oshie's number 77 join that list?
So there's a glut of backlogs there. I think there's a big controversy that Kolzig hasn't had his jersey retired, unless I'm forgetting that he hasn't yet. Of the sort of pantheon of the last 20 years of Capitals, there's a bunch of guys that can justify it, and TJ Oshie is absolutely among them. But man, there's a bottleneck of obviously 8 and 19, and in my opinion, Braden Holtby is probably one of the best goalie in Capitals history. But man, TJ Oshie's right there for sentimental and statistical reasons.
Yeah, there figured to be a lot of jersey numbers retired by the Caps over the next 10 years or so. The other big Caps news item in recent days was the NHL on Saturday morning announcing that Caps head coach Spencer Carbery won the Jack Adams Award for the league's 2024-2025 regular season. Carbery now the first coach ever to win Coach of the Year awards in the NHL, AHL, and ECHL. What's your assessment of Carbery over his 2 seasons as Caps head coach?
Given that the Capitals were expected to take a step back this past season, all projections had them like low to mid 80s in points, and they finished, I think it was 111 points, first in the Metro, second in the league. You can't score him justifiably anywhere beneath an A. He's an A plus a coach so far, and he certainly had a lot of things go his way. What Brian McClellan did before his ascendance to the top of the organization, what Chris Patrick did as the new GM of the team, helped him out tremendously, and the team had a very high shooting percentage, and that's one of those things that's not necessarily replicable, but he did a fantastic job managing that team, and the fact that they exceeded projections, estimations, whatever, by so much, I mean, a historical amount. You don't see teams overperform expectations as much as the Capitals did this year, should be a credit to Carbery, and man, he ran away with that contest this year.
The Caps' much-improved goal scoring this past regular season was incredible. The Caps last season made the Stanley Cup playoffs despite having a regular season goal differential of minus 37, the worst regular season goal differential for an NHL playoff team in the league's salary cap era, which started with the 2005-2006 season. The Caps this season made the Stanley Cup playoffs with a regular season goal differential of plus 56, tied for the third best goal differential in the NHL. The Caps in the 2023-2024 regular season scored just 220 goals. The Caps this past regular season scored at 288 goals. How legit, how sustainable, how real is the Caps' much improved goal scoring from this past regular season?
Yeah, I'll say retrospectively, it's all real. All those goals counted, and they were all level. I imagine if we were to get every team of this sort of era, going back to like 2007, 2008, and rank them by their shooting percentage, the Capitals would easily be in the top three. They may be number one. I think maybe like the lockout short in 2013, Maple Leafs maybe higher. But they were an exceptionally high shooting team, and that is not a thing that is considered easily repeatable across seasons. That doesn't mean it's the sole reason that the Capitals were good, but it does mean that, like, for example, the example I think of most saliently is Jacob Chychrun, who scored 20 goals this season. It's not realistic to expect him to do that again. There's generally like two defenders who score 20 goals or more in a season. That's not a reasonable expectation for them. And when we see breakout seasons from Pierre-Luc Dubois or Alexis Protas, a lot of those boxcar stats are driven by really, really high shooting percentages. And I can't depend on those going forward. One big asterisk on there is jersey number 8, Alex Ovechkin, is a unicorn in this statistic, and he can and has proven for very many years that he can exceed, that he's a better shooter than numbers suggest. And there's reasons why he does that, especially with the uniqueness of the passing that precedes his one-timer and the nature of the one-timer shot that he does on its own. So yeah, the Capitals are going to regress next season, both in shooting percentage and probably in standing points. I'm willing to die on that hill, but they're still going to be very good, and it shouldn't take away from the very important sort of underlying success that helped drive those goals. Shooting percentage is one thing, but getting the shots in the first place, getting into the offensive zone, is something that they're much better at than they were before, and it's real.
We're talking with Peter Hassett, co-founder of the great cap site Russian Machine Never Breaks, RMNB. You mentioned Alex Ovechkin, all of this retirement stuff that has been out there lately. So he's playing next season, which is the final season of a 5-year, $47.5 million contract to which Ovi was re-signed in July 2021. Next season would be his age 40 season, but there recently has been conflicting intel on whether next season will be his final NHL season. This all started on May 29th when Caps Public Relations on X put up the following post, quote, "No decision has been made on Alex Ovechkin's future following the 2025-26 NHL season. An email was sent from an individual with the corporate sales department that mistakenly alluded to next year being Alex Ovechkin's final year," end quote. Then Hockey News Hub on May 30th on X highlighted that Ovechkin's wife had recently told a Russian media outlet, AIF, quote, "Alexander still has a contract for a year, so we will play the next season and then fly back to live in Moscow to our homeland. We will stay in Russia, yes," end quote. Okay, then RG.org on June 1st had this, quote, "Despite recent comments and speculation regarding his possible retirement, Washington Capitals captain Alex Ovechkin has not decided on his NHL future following next season. A source close to Ovechkin confirmed to RG Media that Ovechkin has not made any decision regarding if next year will be his last in the NHL and that he will make that choice when his contract ends," end quote. A lot to take in. What do you believe to be true about Alex Ovechkin's future?
There's a lot going on there. I'll say that I remember distinctly him saying that this was a joke. The moment he broke the goals record, he said he would retire that moment. He would leave the ice and never come back. That didn't happen, and his statements on it and the various prognosticators have been variable in their opinion, I'll say. Right now, I'll say that I don't think there's a determination that has been made. Obviously, he's going to play next season out of his contract, but my guess is a player who set the record for most goals by a 39-year-old, at 44 goals this season, is not inclined to hang him up right away. If he has another season, he's very unlikely that he scores 44 goals in his 40-year-old season, which I think would be another record. It's always Gordie Howe that owns the record for most goals by an oldie. I would bet that 44 is right around where that is. If he does that again, there's no way he hangs it up. Jaromir Jagr was very himself mercurial about this, and he would, be cagey about whether he was done or not. And then he would leave, and then he would come back again. And as long as he was scoring, he was like, "Yeah, screw it, I'll keep playing. This is great." I bet Ovechkin's like that. I mean, he's got a lot of other factors in his life. His children are growing up. I imagine that he wants them to have a little bit more of a Russian experience in their education, and the contract's certainly up. But I guarantee that the Washington Capitals would be happy to have Alex Ovechkin for as long as he's willing to play, and as well. And with the salary cap going up, they'll find the money to make it happen. there's also no chance in heck, in my estimation, that we see him in a different jersey, unless it's the Screaming Eagle jersey coming back for the Capitals. So yeah, I have a suspicion that he will not make a final determination until very late next season. And as long as the Capitals are good and fun and he's scoring, and I think all those three things will happen, his inclination will be to keep playing.
The 2025 NHL Draft is on June 27th and June 28th. 2025 NHL free agency begins on July 1st at noon Eastern. What do you expect from Caps President of Hockey Operations Brian McClellan and Caps Senior Vice President and General Manager Chris Patrick this offseason?
So we should think of last summer as an unqualified success and one of the most successful off seasons in this team's history, and one of the more significant ones in NHL history of the last, let's say, 20 years. And I imagine if they hadn't changed the GM position, then Brian McClellan and or Chris Patrick would have been considered GM of the year. And the only reason they didn't get that is because the position changed inside the organization over the summer. They did a lot last season on forward and defense last year that put them in a great position. That means that they don't have to be as splashy this summer. That said, they do have significant gaps. I think they're like top 6 among forwards is fully locked up, and they've got Dowd and Duhaime on the fourth line, who will be really dependable down there. But the third line is a really big open question. Lars Eller will be gone. Connor McMichael says he would like to compete for that position. Hendrix Lapierre didn't pan out there last year. I really think they're going to go to the open market there and look for some new options. I think third line center is probably the most interesting position that we'll see. There's also a ton of interesting prospects that will try and compete for it. Ryan Leonard, I expect, will play the whole season with the big club, which is interesting, but there's a bunch of other forwards that I think we may see another chance. Lapierre is a very, very interesting one, in my opinion. And there's a number of other factors, but players like Taylor Radish, Andrew Mangiapane, I don't think we're going to see again. A miracle would be if Sonny Milano comes back and could play depth time. He's been on LTIR with concussion issues for more than a year now, and he was a wonderful player before he was chronically injured. Down on defense, I think that the top 6 spots are all locked up in a really fun and interesting way. I think we'll see Carlson continue to play big minutes, whether or not it's wise or not, into the spring. But once they hit that 70 position, they prove to be completely unreliable in the postseason with Alexiev stepping up as Martin Fehervary got hurt. They're definitely going to shore up the defense there. Goalies, they love Thompson. They love Lindgren. Both were extended this year. They're not going to do a single thing there except sign somebody for the minors and for additional depth. I would keep our eyes on bottom 6 forwards as free agency comes up.
The Caps this past January 27th announced having signed goaltender Logan Thompson to a 6-year, $35.1 million contract extension. Are you a fan of that contract, or did the Caps commit too much too soon to Thompson?
Really interesting question. If Logan Thompson's performance this season is an indicator of what he can do in the future, then, man, that's a steal. I think he was something like 26 goals better than expected, meaning like you would expect against like a league average goalie, opponents would score 26 more goals against them. He was certainly the standout goalie, and his record before he came to Washington was strong enough to suggest that he could do well here. I think a regression is very likely unless he ends up being one of those historically good goalies. Your Hellebucks, your Bobrovskys, guys who can put together big numbers like that over a long term. And to me, those players are exceptionally rare. Thompson is a relatively mature goalie, and I think that's less likely. That said, even a slightly better than league average goalie would probably be an okay deal on that contract, considering how, mercurial that position can be, how unreliable that position can be. So I'll take it. I'll take stability in net, even if it's not groundbreaking. And man, if he can put up another sort of outside run at the Vezina, like he did effectively through the end of February, he was a Vezina finalist, in my opinion. I think that's a steal at that price if he can do that.
I agree. Goaltending in the NHL is just so unpredictable. I mean, the last goaltender who the Caps signed to a big money contract, Darcy Kemper, how about him this season? He, off being traded by the Caps last June off 2 disappointing seasons with the Caps, had an outstanding season. For the Los Angeles Kings, he's one of 3 finalists for the Vezina Trophy for this past regular season. You never know with these goaltenders.
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna toot my own horn. I totally called that. going to a team that was as defensively strong as LA was this year. And I would say they're like top 3 best defensive teams. Him having a bounce back was inevitable. The prior season with the Capitals were really, really rough, especially for those like high danger chances. And yeah, Kemper struggled, but he was going to do better. It's okay because I think the Capitals got Dubois back for them. That is a classic win-win trade. I'll take an 8 day of the week. I'm happy for Kemper out there, especially because it's on the other coast. And Dubois could not have been more of a cure-all for the Capitals.
Peter Hassett, co-founder of the great cap site Russian Machine Never Breaks, RMNB. Peter, thanks. All the best.
Thank you. It was a blast.
And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Wednesday show, episode 1092, will include a lot for you on the Commanders, as Tuesday is day 1 of their 2025 mandatory minicamp. Also on Wednesday show, I'll talk Nationals and Orioles. The Nats are at the National League leading New York Mets Tuesday night at 7:10 in game 1 of a 3-game series. The O's are home to the Major League best Detroit Tigers Tuesday evening at 6:35 in game 1 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Special shout out to Becky, John, and Tom.